There are dates the spiritual realm treats as neutral, and then there are dates we were never allowed to ignore. February 9 and February 10 were never marked as holidays. They don't come with rituals you can see. No loud signs, no obvious ceremonies. And that's exactly why most people miss what's happening. When I was a warlock, we didn't look for dramatic nights. We looked for transition windows, quiet spans of time when pressure shifts, assignments change, and momentum is tested rather than attacked. Feb 9, 10 was one of those windows. Not because of superstition, not because of astrology, but because of timing. These nights were used to check alignment, to see who was tired, who was distracted, who was carrying unresolved weight, not to destroy, but to delay. That's why many people feel something they can't explain during these days: a heaviness without fear, a restlessness without panic, a strange emotional flatness that doesn't match their faith or progress. I'm not here to alarm you. I'm here to explain what I wish believers had known when I was on the other side. Most spiritual resistance doesn't come with chaos. It comes with subtle pressure. If you felt unusually tired, if motivation dipped for no reason, if prayer felt quieter than usual, if you sensed a pause where momentum should be, this message is for you. Feb 9-10 is not about attack. It's about assessment. And when you understand what's happening, the pressure loses its grip. Let me show you how this window works and why awareness alone protects you. In the occult, we didn't think in terms of days being good or bad. We thought in terms of windows, periods when authority could either solidify or scatter. A spiritual window is a moment when routines are evaluated, fly consistency is tested, lie agreements are reviewed. Feb 9-10 was used as a transition checkpoint, not to launch major attacks, but to see what still had access. This is why people often feel A, distracted instead of oppressed, way tired instead of afraid, or unmotivated instead of attacked. Because the goal isn't fear, the goal is delay. If momentum slows quietly, no resistance is triggered. I watched believers lose weeks of progress, not because they sinned, but because they disengaged internally during these windows. Spiritually, stillness without awareness becomes vulnerability. That's why these days feel off, but not intense. Pressure without panic, weight without clarity. The window doesn't force anything. It reveals what's already loose. And that's where discernment matters. Not everyone feels these dates the same way. In the occult, we focused on people who were recently disciplined, gaining clarity, or rebuilding consistency, the coming out of confusion, a stepping into alignment. Why? Because transition is fragile. When someone is breaking old cycles, even quiet pressure can cause hesitation, doubt, delay. These dates were used to test: will they keep going or pause? If you've recently restarted prayer, made a clear decision, let go of old habits, stepped into obedience, we felt spiritual clarity return. You may feel these days more strongly, not because you're weak, but because you're moving. Stillness attracts no resistance, movement does. Here's the mistake I saw again and again. People react to the heaviness. They push harder emotionally. They overcorrect spiritually. They assume something is wrong. But reaction feeds pressure. The window doesn't require effort, it requires steadiness. When people panic, pressure deepens. When people overanalyze, focus scatters. The occult relied on one thing during these days: believers assuming something was wrong instead of recognizing something was shifting. Nothing is wrong. Something is being tested, and tests pass when calm authority remains. Let me be clear. Do not make major emotional decisions or confront unresolved conflicts. Whereover fast or overstrain lead chase signs, vi interpret heaviness as failure. These days are not for force, they are for consistency. Do what you normally do, pray as you normally pray, rest when you normally rest. Pressure loses power when it's not fed. In the occult, the people we couldn't affect during these windows all did the same things. They stayed grounded, avoided emotional swings. One kept routines steady, guarded attention, didn't seek drama. Authority is quiet when it's real. You don't need louder prayer. You need stable presence. Even a simple acknowledgement, God, I stay aligned, is enough. Awareness closes access. This is the part many don't expect. Feb 9-10 is not about fighting. It's about resting correctly. Fatigue is the goal of pressure windows. Not exhaustion, but subtle weariness. When rest is protected, pressure fails. Sleep, eat well, limit noise. Avoid endless scrolling. Protect your attention. Rest restores authority faster than effort. Here's the good news: windows close. And when they do, momentum often accelerates. I watch people come out of these days suddenly clear again. Motivation returning, direction sharpening. Why? Because pressure that doesn't land collapses. If you stay steady now, what follows often comes quickly. You don't need long declarations, just this: God, I remain aligned. I do not react. I do not retreat. I rest in your authority. That's enough. Let me say this clearly. Feb 9-10 is not a threat. It's not a curse. It's not something to fear. It's a checkpoint. And awareness passes checkpoints effortlessly. If you felt something and didn't understand it, now you do. Stay steady, stay aligned, stay calm. Breakthrough often follows quiet endurance. If this message brought clarity, stay connected to the restoration path. Truth removes fear. Awareness restores authority. And authority always wins. I want to end this the right way, because spiritual understanding is only useful if you know how to recognize the outcome. In the occult, we never guessed whether a window succeeded or failed. We watched for evidence, and the evidence was always subtle, not dramatic. Here's how you'll know Feb 9th, 10 did not gain access. First, you stop thinking about it. That's the biggest sign. When pressure fails, the mind moves on naturally. You don't keep replaying the heaviness. You don't keep checking how you feel. Life simply resumes its rhythm. Second, clarity returns without effort. Not excitement, not emotion, just steadiness. Decisions feel easier again. Focus sharpens. You don't need reassurance. That quiet return to normal is not loss of sensitivity, it's authority settling. Third, momentum resumes quietly. Things you paused internally start moving again. Motivation returns without you forcing it. You don't feel the need to catch up. You simply continue. That's how we knew access was gone. Pressure doesn't announce defeat, it disengages. And here's something most people misunderstand. If you didn't feel anything unusual at all, that's not a problem. That means alignment was already strong enough that the window had nothing to test. The goal of messages like this is not to make you hyper, aware. It's to remove confusion if something was felt. Now listen carefully because this matters. Do not turn Feb 9th, 10 into an identity. Do not mark yourself as someone who went through something. Do not keep monitoring your state. The strongest believers we ever encountered did one thing exceptionally well. They did not memorialize pressure. They didn't give it a story. They didn't give it language. They didn't give it attention. They kept going. So if you're here now, calm, grounded, and moving forward, this chapter isn't a warning. It's confirmation. You didn't lose ground. You didn't miss anything. You didn't need to fight. You stayed aligned. And alignment, once demonstrated, changes how the spiritual realm responds going forward. That's why things feel quieter now. That's why pressure feels distant. That's why peace feels normal again. That's the outcome we never wanted believers to reach, but could never stop once they did. So let this message end where it should. Not with fear, not with vigilance, but with confidence. The window has passed. Now keep building.